Well, good morning and welcome to Copernicus. My name is Sarah and I'm so happy you're here today. For those of you who don't know, Copernicus is a Bible study. We meet on Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for about an hour. Anytime you can catch us, whether it's live or on replay, we love to have you. So this week we are starting a new series. It's a 4-week series on the book of Ecclesiastes. I mean, that's a big, long word, so we have a longer series. So if you are curious about what Ecclesiastes is about, this is the one. You don't want to miss it. So we're thrilled you're here. And now remember, the first in every series is kind of where we start developing the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. So get your notes, get ready, and we're going to dig into Ecclesiastes. We're thrilled you're here, and we're going to turn it over to Tim.
Good morning. Thank you, Sarah, and welcome back to Copernicus Life. And we are really excited to start our new series today on Ecclesiastes. This one's called Hug and Smoke, and you'll understand why that is a little bit later. So this is a really cool book, and it is very much unlike any other book in your Bible. Ecclesiastes is the 21st book in your English Bible. And so it's in the Old Testament. So typically if you open up to about the middle of your Bible, you should be in about Psalms, and then you can kind of roll through a couple more books and you'll be Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a really cool book. It's a funny word. You may or may not be familiar with the word or the book of the Bible. However, even if you've never read it, never been in church, don't know anything about this book, think it's a weird name, you've actually probably heard some verses out of this. And you've heard it more than you think, and we'll talk about that more next week. The book of Ecclesiastes was actually written by a very wise person, and the book itself is based on a question, though, that children grow up asking. Now, I pulled this picture from the internet, so I don't know who these children are. They're beautiful, right? They're cute as a button. You probably don't know them either, but we both know one thing about these kids. We know 2 questions that they know the words to. One is, or 2 words they know, and one's a question. One word is no, right? They all know no, absolutely not. The second is why, right? So, I mean, and this is the beautiful thing about kids. Small children just have this sense of wonder that just permeates their entire life. And since they know nothing growing, coming out of the womb, they just like, there they are. They ask why on everything. As soon as they figure out what this word means, they start asking, you say, Mommy, why is the sky blue? Mommy, why are clouds white? Why do clouds float? And it's like, and everything, no matter what you talk about, no matter what situation you're in, they want to know why. Now, this is really annoying at times, right? Because you're like, stop asking why, right? But it's cute. Kids are adorable. And so what happens though, and we don't often recognize this, is that we grow up doing exactly the same things as our children. Because we grow up and then we start, instead of just asking why about everything, we ask why on account of everything. It's a little different. So a kid asks, why this, why this, why this, why this, everything is why. But when we grow up, we start thinking, why is everything, right? Why is there anything to ask the why about, right? And then we start thinking, why am I here? And what is my purpose? What is my meaning? And so then, the why question becomes more complicated because we're adults. But it doesn't go away. It's the same question. So for many of us, we get to this point in our life where we ask why, and we go, does life even have meaning, right? So, and either it does or it doesn't. If it has meaning, then it should go a certain way, right? And if it doesn't go that way, does that mean it doesn't have meaning? And nothing I do here matters? Or if there is no meaning inherent in the system, then maybe I need to make my own meaning. Maybe I need to have a special job, or find pleasure, or do some political maneuvering, or social work, or get in a right relationship with somebody, right? And so Ecclesiastes is all about the question of why. Those kinds of questions are exactly what the book of Ecclesiastes is addressing. So normally we do how the book was designed and a map. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to jump right in to the very first verse, the very first chapter of Ecclesiastes. It starts out this way: the words of the teacher. Okay, so this is actually where the book gets its name. So the word teacher is a Hebrew word. It's pronounced kohelet. And so you can see it's That's cool. I just think Hebrew is pretty. I don't know how to read it, but it's cool that when Greek-speaking people translated the Bible from Hebrew, the Old Testament from Hebrew into Greek, there's a version called the Septuagint. They transliterated Kohelet to ecclesia, right? Or what we say, Ecclesiastes. So the word Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, both those words, it literally means someone who assembles people, presumably to give them information. Okay, and so some people will tell you that the Kohelet means, Ecclesiastes means the preacher. It could mean the preacher or it could mean the teacher. Either way, it's the same basic idea. It's somebody who has assembled people for the purpose of giving them information. Now, who is this teacher, right? That's a great question. If you're asking that question, let's finish reading this verse. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. All right, so there are two ways to look at this. The way, I don't know if it's the most popular, the way I grew up learning about this was that this is Solomon. He's the son of David, and he was the king in Jerusalem. And there are other things in the book as we go along that sound a lot like Solomon. Now, it might be Solomon. There's another option, and I think this is very compelling. I don't know which one it is, but it's very compelling. It might be that this is the author here has taken on the persona of Solomon for the purpose of doing a thought experiment. And you say, well, then he's lying. It's not really Solomon. Well, first of all, he doesn't ever say he's Solomon, right? He doesn't say he's the king or the son of David. It's a son of David, a king in Jerusalem. He's not saying that. But imagine if somebody wanted to do a thought experiment or something like that on the founding of the United States of America and the first president of the United States. And they said, I'm going to write as George Washington, right? So they create this piece of work where it's George Washington speaking. Now, we would all know it's not really George Washington speaking. Nobody would be like, he's lying, he's not George. We wouldn't do that. We would know. And I think that there's one theory about this is that this is somebody who wrote long after Solomon had passed away. And he's writing, he's saying, let's do a thought experiment as if I were Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. And so it could be Solomon, or it could be someone writing as him. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the content. So you'll see how this works. So that's verse 1. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. So what do you think? I mean, like, do we need to even talk about this, right? I mean, you can see this. Here's the thing about language. Language is dynamic, right? So language is always changing. We have words in our English language that used to mean one thing and now mean something completely different. Enthusiastic, okay? Enthusiastic is what you get at a baseball game or a football game or a basketball game or at Christmas, right? But enthusiastic originally meant somebody who was demon possessed, right? So it's a little different than, so language has changed, right? And so it's cool. The word meaningless here, now some of your Bibles will say vanity. And this is a challenge because meaningless and vanity are both good translations of this word. This word is a Hebrew word, and you can see that it's pretty, right? And you want to try to pronounce that? It's hevel. Hevel, okay? Hevel means a vapor or a smoke, okay? So just think about something like when you build a fire and there's smoke going up. You can see the smoke, right? It's real. It has substance, right? And so it's not that smoke is not meaningless. It's there. It's not vanity. It's not like I'm so happy to be who I am, right? It's not self-aggrandizement. It's something a little different. Now, why is the teacher telling us that everything is smoke? Well, that's a good question. And he's going to use this word hevel around 40 times in the book. And so we need to know what it means. So let's keep reading and we'll explore what this means as we go. You'll enjoy this. Verse 3, what do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. So this is a kind of a key point here. So first thing is the teacher says, what do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? So under the sun is his way of saying on this planet, on the earth. Doesn't matter what country, it doesn't matter what nationality, it doesn't matter if it's a small city, a big city, a white person, a black person, a girl, a boy, it doesn't matter, okay? It's people in general on the earth, okay? And so he says, what do people gain from their labors? Well, we can make a long list of that, but then he compares it to the earth. He says, generations come and go. Well, a generation in the Bible is usually about 40 years, and he's saying generations come and generations go. Multiple generations come and multiple generations go. You know what sticks around? The earth. It's still here, right? So can you see where he's going with this? It may feel like our toil makes some sense right now, but the earth is like, yeah, whatever. You know, I've been here. I've seen that. It's done, right? So let's think about this word hevel, so that we can understand. So when you see smoke or steam, like coming out of a cup of coffee or whatever, it's real. It's substantive. You can see it. Sometimes you can smell it, right? I mean, it's real. What happens if you reach out and grab it? It's not, you can't hold on to it, can you? Right? It's vaporous. It's not that it's not real. It's absolutely real. It's just you can't grab a hold of it. You can't grasp it. You can't hug it and hold on to it for yourself, right? There are some times when there's some steam I would like to hold on for myself. You know, when bread comes out of the oven, oh yeah, I'd like to hold on that, but it can't. Okay? And so the idea that everything is hevel has to do with two things. One, it either could mean it's impossible to grasp. I can see it, I can touch it, but when I try to hold on to it, it just goes away. Or it could mean I can see it, and when I try to understand it, I can't. So it could mean it's difficult to grasp, or that it's an enigma. And you'll see how the teacher handles this word. Now, the teacher is going to explore 9 areas, and there might be different ways to pull this out, but we're going to look at it this way. He explores 9 areas where he tries to rein in life and to try to figure out how it works, okay? And so we're going to touch on all of these. We're not going to read all 12 chapters. I know some of you are taking a sigh of relief at that. But you should read all 12 chapters. It won't take you long. You should definitely read all 12 chapters. You could probably do it 4 times during this series because it won't take you that long to do it. If you don't like reading, let me strongly suggest that you listen to it. You can pull up Bible Gateway and you can listen to Ecclesiastes in a variety of versions and a variety of different voices, and you should definitely do that. So he's going to start out with nature, okay? So nature is the first thing that's hevel. Or it may not be nature that's hevel, it may be something else. So let's just jump right in. Verse 5, the sun rises and the sun sets, and it hurries back to where it rises. We know this, right? The wind blows to the south, turns to the north, round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. That's not news. We all know that. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. So somehow the sea has all these rivers flowing into it, and the sea never gets full, right? And somehow the water seems to get back to right where it came from and starts all over again. So what's the teacher saying? This is all nature stuff. Teacher's talking about nature. Every day the same things happen. The sun shines, the wind blows, the streams flow, the sea takes on more water. Nothing seems to change. And like in your lifetime, it's the same as it was 1,000 years ago. Sunrise, sunset, wind blows, right? And in 1,000 more years, you know what'll happen? The sun rises, the sun sets, the wind blows, right? It'll be the same thing. And so you can see where he's going here. Who or what is hevel? Well, it's not the earth, right? Who is it? Well, keep reading. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, and nor the ear is full of hearing. And so in relation to nature, we could talk all day about the things that nature does over and over and over and over again, right? And we would never run out of things to say. You could travel the world, and you would never run out of things to see. We could talk about it, and if it was the right person talking, you would never get tired of hearing about all the cool things that happen in nature. But those things happen over and over again, whether we see them or hear them. It doesn't matter. What has been will be again with regards to nature. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new on the earth. Now, we go, well, I've got a cell phone. Cell phones are new technology, but humans have been communicating for millennia, okay? Communication, we just figured out a new way to do it, okay? And so it's not there's nothing new about communication, just a different way of doing it. So nothing that happens, especially in nature, but nothing that happens in the world is new. It's always been. It'll always continue. If cell phones go the way of the dodo, we'll find another way of communicating. It's the way it is. And then he says, is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was already here long ago. It was here before our time. Now, again, what's he mainly talking about here? He's talking about nature. Can't say, oh, look, that mountain's new. It was here a long time before me. Oh, look, the rain is new. It's not new. It's been on here a long time before me. And so nature here has been before us doing what it does. It's here with us doing what it's always done. And it'll keep doing what it does long after we're gone. Who or what is Hevel? Can you see where he's going with this? No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Now he changes the thing a little bit. He says, to help us understand, what's he saying? No one remembers the former generations of people. The people are Hevel. People are Hevel. Nature is like here, and it's here yesterday, tomorrow, it's here today. It'll be here when I'm gone, it'll be here when you're gone. In fact, it's not just that nature will be here and doesn't care about us. It is that we don't even care about us. Look, we can't even remember what has been done in past generations. People are like, oh, this is so significant. We don't even know our own history in many cases. And we don't care. And just for the record, one day you and I will be completely forgotten as well by future generations. So what's the writer saying? He's saying humans, nature shows us that humans are Hevel. We aren't here for very long, right? Who knows how long the world's been around, but we're here for a fraction of a second compared to how long it's been around. We just start, and we're gone. It's not important. So nature shows us that we are Hevel. So now the writer is like, well, let's talk about wisdom. Okay, this is a smart man. That was nature. Now, when we talk about wisdom in the Bible, you have to broaden your view of wisdom a little bit, because in his world, wisdom and knowledge are part of a broad spectrum of things. So knowledge is things you know. Wisdom is how to use it. So in our world, we might think about philosophy in its strictest definition. Here's what he says. This is the teacher. We're still in chapter 1. He says this. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. Now, this sounds like Solomon. So that's why a lot of people, and there's more that sounds like Solomon, think this might be Solomon. Whether it was or not, this is what this king, in this thought experiment, this is what he did. He says, I applied my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. So he says, here's what I did. I was like, I'm going to explore by wisdom, everything that I can see on this planet, right? And he was like, I'm going to grasp this life thing. I'm going to get a hold of it. I'm going to make sense out of it. And I'm going to use wisdom to do it. And he looks around, he says, well, there's a lot here. And God has laid a heavy burden on humans because we're so small, we don't see everything, we don't know everything. To learn all this that's going to be hard work, right? He says, I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. Remember, under the sun, on the planet. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. So now, are the accomplishments that he's seen, are the things he's seen bad? Are they evil? Well, not all of them. They're not. It's not that they're bad or good, it's that they're temporary. Right? Vapors can't be caught by grabbing. These accomplishments, work, they're as temporary as a breeze, no matter how lasting we think they're going to be. So think about this. If you chase the wind, what are you going to grab it by when you get to it? Nothing, right? What do you have if you did catch it? Nothing, right? That's what all of this wisdom was in the end. It was nothing to hold on to and nothing that you can keep. Well, that's depressing. So look at the next verse. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. And more depressing, right? So the idea here is that this is the reference to irregularities in life and obstacles in human secular development, right? So think about all of the things that humans try to fix about our broken world. And think about how many of those are not fixed yet. I mean, how many people have tried to fix poverty? A lot. How many have tried to fix homelessness? A lot of people. How many people have tried to feed the hungry? Tons of people. And yet these problems still persist. Okay? Now, is the writer saying it can't be fixed? Ultimately, it's just going to stay this way forever? That's not what he's saying. He's saying that all the things that humans try to do to correct these things always fall a little bit short. And so then he says in verse 16, I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled in Jerusalem before me. And I've experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Again, this is why a lot of people think it was Solomon. Solomon was regarded as the wisest man in the world. And so that's the picture. He says, this is what I've done. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned that this too is chasing after the wind. He said, I aimed at wisdom and I saw how much wasn't done and how hard we've tried and how much we failed. So I thought, well, let me just look at that folly and madness. Maybe there's something to offer there. And it's like, not so much. It's chasing after the wind. And why is that? Here's why. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. So the more I know about the world, the more things I see are broken, and the more I realize that humans, despite our best efforts, we're not fixing them. We're making no lasting change. We need someone to come and fix it, but there isn't anybody. And that brings sadness, even grief. And many of you know what I'm talking about. So nature reminds us that we're just smoke, will soon fade. The search for wisdom turns out to be good, but fleeting. All the wisdom in the world won't change anything for very long. So the teacher decides to try something else. He's going to go for pleasure. So now the teacher is going to explore possible paths to a good and meaningful life through something that he can grasp, pleasure, right? Surely pleasure will do the trick. So let's read chapter 2. I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. So now this is an experiment, okay? Remember, a test in the Bible is something that proves the truth. So you put something to the test to find out what it's made of and what it's. So what kind of pleasure is he going after? Well, that's not spelled out at this point, okay? So he's gonna go for pleasure. Now I will tell you something about the guy that wrote this. He is a terrible storyteller, okay? Not really, but I'm making a joke because he keeps giving you spoiler alerts like this one. He goes, all right, I'm going to do pleasure, find out what's good. But that proved meaningless. It's like, that's Hevel. It's like, really? At least let us work it out. And so he says, now let me tell you why it's Hevel. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? Okay, now I like to laugh, okay, a lot. And I like to make people laugh. It's very good. Laughter is not bad. There's some really good things about it. There's plenty of humor in the Bible. If you've been with us for very long, you know that. But the laughter here seems to be this frivolous merrymaking, In the end, he may be talking about all pleasure and all laughter, because at the end of the day, what does pleasure accomplish in light of our wispy existence? Nothing. I mean, having a good laugh won't change the world. He says, I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind's still guiding me. I didn't do this by accident. I wasn't being lazy. My mind's still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. So I went crazy. I did the wine, I did the folly, I did the silliness. And so he makes a concerted effort to try these things. And whether he tried them or just did the thought experiment, I mean, these things were done. Plenty of people have tried this. And here's what he says. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees. This guy's building his dream house. And let me just tell you, this house is a winner. Keep reading. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. He has gardens and groves, ponds. But wait, there's more. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone else in Jerusalem before me. Now, I know we went to the slave thing and everybody just had a stroke. Okay, slavery is bad, it's wrong, the Bible does not condone that. However, what he's saying here is the equivalent in his day of us saying, I have a car collection. Okay, so we have a whole bit, there are many people who think fossil fuels are the worst thing ever. So you can imagine a guy who owns like 32 super expensive gas guzzlers. That's the way, but it means he's probably not very good with the environment. But is he rich? Yeah, he's filthy stinking rich. This guy has everything that money could buy. And there's more. He says, I amassed silver and gold for myself, and the treasures of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers, and a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. So basically he has an 80s rock band, okay? In his house, right? Not only does he have everything that money can buy, he has money stored up for himself. He's got his 401k, he's got his retirement. This guy's got it all, right? And then he says, I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. And all this, my wisdom stayed with me. So I didn't do this by accident. I'm testing pleasure. I'm testing all this stuff to see if it's going to bring some meaning to my life. And this is powerful because he ain't the first one to do it, and he's certainly not the last one to do it. Think about how many people in our world are aiming this direction. They've got it, okay? He said, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all of my toil. So on top of having the perfect life, having everything he desired, he had a flourishing career that fueled and financed all of these things. So he was doing something on the internet, and making $2,000 a minute or something, whatever they say, right? Now, can you imagine? Just try to imagine this. If you're having a hard time, let me help you. Let me show you a house. This home is known as the Manor. It's located in Los Angeles County, California. The last time it sold, which I believe was in 2020, it's the priciest sale in California history, $119.75 million. That is $2,000 per square foot. Okay, just to give you an idea, in Georgia where I live, if you're at $100 per square foot, you're thinking you're pretty awesome, right? It's pretty good. So this is on almost 5 acres. This is just the living space here is about the same size as a football field. The living space. We're not talking about outside where you park your cars. The heated and cooled space. This room is actually 1,500 square feet bigger than the White House. It has 123 rooms, 14 bedrooms, 27 bathrooms, because if you have 14 bedrooms, you need 27 bathrooms, I guess, okay? It has a flower cutting room, a humidity controlled silver storage room, a barbershop, gift wrapping rooms, French wine and cheese room, sidewalk cafe with music. I mean, it's got an 80s rock and roll band, right? So this is some serious stuff. That's as good as it gets in terms of beautiful homes and living the good life, right? And this is what the teacher says. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was hevel, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained on the earth. At the end of the day, especially in California, that house could go away in a second, right? I mean, it could be swallowed up in an earthquake. He had everything, and he had nothing. And how is that? Well, it's grasping smoke. And you say, I don't understand how he can have all that and have nothing. That's hevel. It's a conundrum. It's a puzzle. It looks like you've got everything. It looks like you should be happy, and yet it doesn't satisfy. So we have nature, which shows that we are hevel, that we are vapors. We have wisdom, which you pursue it, and it looks like, it's good. Wisdom is good, but it doesn't give us what we need. Pleasure's not bad. Okay, all these things offer something real and desirable, something substantial, but they all provide it in a very temporary and fleeting way because we are temporary and fleeting people. Okay, you can't chase down these things and hold on to them because they will go or you will go first. And even if you did catch it, even if you catch the wind, what do you have? If you grasp smoke, what do you have to show for it? Nothing. And so I want you to follow the way that the teacher is thinking. If I do nothing now that can be remembered, if I chase after wisdom and I have nothing to show for it, if I have everything my heart desires, but it turns out that it isn't enough, then what should I do? What's the answer? Now, here's what's really interesting. In our world, we've tried to answer that by saying things like these. Live in the moment. Be mindful of the present, right? I just looked this up. Be here now. Isn't that's deep, right? Right? Live for the moment. Live in the moment for the moment. Live in the moment. You can see this all over. There are billboards, and this is not new. Okay. In fact, we have another word for this. It's called mindfulness, right? So be mindful of the moment, right? That's the idea. But this is not new. In fact, a guy named Buddha said it this way. He says, "Do not dwell on the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." It's not new, and it's not even Christian, right? It's not a new thought. And Buddha, he may have been actually the first person to say it. I don't know. He's certainly the first person to put it crochet it on a pillow, right? So So the question is, what will happen when the teacher experiments with this mindfulness concept, with this idea of living in the now? Well, we'll find that out next week when we continue our study in Ecclesiastes. So let me ask you a question. Where do you find meaning? Where do you turn when you've grasped something and it turns out you have nothing? Or you chase down something, a relationship, a job, or a house, or something, and you can't catch it. And these are good questions to ponder until we meet next week when we look again at what the teacher has to say about life. Let me pray with you. Oh, Father, we are grateful for your love and for this book. It's a little confusing and it's kind of weird, but it speaks to us because we have the same question. We want to know why. Why are we here? And so as we think about that this week and we ponder these questions, I pray that you will open our hearts, make it sensitive to the answers that you will provide for us over the course of the next 3 weeks. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.